96.5 FM and online. It's the After 5 Guest with Wyn Thomas.
For my After 5 guest on the programme, and that is Joe Neal and his new book of a collection of poetry called Rossetti's Wombat. Hi Joe, how are you, alright?
Hello Wyn.
Nice to be company this afternoon, thanks for joining me. Simple question really to start, how long did it sort of take you to write this particular collection of poetry?
Some of them have been republished from earlier collections. I would say over a period of 5 years, but most of them in 1 year.
Okay.
There are 100 poems.
Yeah, and various inspirations for the poems.
There is no particular theme. It's a wide variety of poems, mainly on themes of love or nature or memory, I suppose.
Okay, and the title, a tribute to the Pre-Raphaelites.
Yeah, there is one poem in there called Rossetti's Wombat, and I used that as a title of the book because I thought it might help sell. Dante Gabriel Rossetti, the artist of the early to mid-19th century, surrounded by a coterie of other artists, formed a group called the Pre-Raphaelites. He was a very strange character. He lived in Chelsea and London, and he used to invite all these quite famous people around to his house on regular occasions, and he kept exotic pets to entertain them, one of which was a wombat. In fact, he had a whole series of wombats, and I think he used to feed them all on laudanum, which most of them used to drink, the extract of opium. Yeah. Which the sort of bohemian types of those days used to take to give them their kicks. And he had a whole range of exotic creatures, toucans and wallabies and the wombats, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So they were pretty much stoned most of the time then, were they?
Yes. He used to have a wombat in the middle of the table in a little basket, snoozing away, heavily sedated with laudanum, and making whistling and farty noises to the entertainment of the guests.
Oh my goodness.
I have to say the poem is not at all sympathetic.
Now, Joe, a lot of people would say that poetry should rhyme. That's not your style, is it?
It should rhyme. Well, there is some rhyme.
Yeah.
It's probably mainly internal, but it's only where the rhythm requires it. I do have a heavy interest in rhythm and the musicality of words, and the rhyme may almost be inadvertent. But no, I don't follow that particularly.
So more play on words then, yeah?
Yes, I suppose. It's like digging a trench, writing a poem.
Yeah.
You get nowhere really, but it's quite invigorating. I like to share what I love about life, and putting a poem together is a strange exercise of thought, and an idea drifts into the mind and grabs your attention. And this can happen at any time, on a train or at night in a dream.
Yeah, yeah.
And once it does, it sort of chases after words, setting them into a kind of melody. And I would call a poem tuned thoughts in that sense. Perhaps that's a good definition.
Yeah, good description, Joe. Yeah, indeed, yeah. So you're a man of many parts, really. I mean, you're an actor, you're a writer, you've also got an interest in politics. So you've done a lot of things in your life so far.
Yes, I aim to live to be 100. There are too many things I still want to do.
So do we all, yeah.
I just keep going. I mean, just cram as many things into life, experiences and so on, into life as possible. And I really think that you can find the good out of just about everything bad. Just be optimistic.
So tell us about the acting then. What have you done? Where have you been with that?
As regards television, I've been in peak practice. I've been in a soap over here in Ireland called Fair City. And I was in a 6-part costume drama series on BBC One called Aristocrats. Mostly stage work. I have worked in London's West End and in the main theatres in Dublin, as well as a lot of repertory theatres. My last gig was touring around with a production of Malvolio's Revenge, which is a one-man show.
Oh, right. That's a tough job to be on stage on your own all night, all through a production.
Yes, I have done quite a lot of one-man shows. It's tough going, but I enjoy it.
I suppose the secret is to get the audience on board almost straight away then, is it, as soon as you start?
Yes, when I have actually performed once with an audience of one. and I spoke to this person beforehand and I said, do you want me to carry on? Yeah. Okay, so I gave him my all.
Oh, brilliant.
And I enjoyed it. It shouldn't matter really.
It shouldn't matter really, no.
It's in an art centre somewhere where they hadn't advertised it very well.
I suppose when the lights go out, you can't see many people anyway, so you're right there, aren't you? Yeah. So you were born in North Wales but moved away pretty quickly, is that right?
Yeah, I was born in a little village called Morhabachan near Portmaddock in Gwynedd. It used to be called Carnarvonshire then. And almost halfway up a mountain of Moylegest above Morhabachan. And my brother was also born in the same house. And we moved to Colchester in Essex, where my father came from, when I was about 6. But I spent all my school holidays in the spring and summer with my aunt and uncle in Morhabachan and in Bersacoed. So I had sort of wild childhood in Wales. And strangely enough, when I came to work on the Western Mail after university, I've had 2 professions, journalism and acting. I met and had to interview the director, Carol Rice, who'd just directed the film Morgan, A Suitable Case for Treatment, with David Warner and Vanessa Redgrave.
All right, yes, okay.
And talking to him in the interview, I discovered that he'd been evacuated from London during the Blitz to Bersacoed, and he'd discovered Park Lake above Gwynedd Forest, and it was a place I knew well from walks with my Uncle Idwell when I was a very small child. One of the scenes is from there, and I'd recognise it in the film, and we had a long chat about that. It was quite funny, really. It's strange how things happen those years later.
And North Wales obviously does, or the love of that rough countryside does feature in the poetry as well, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, yes.
So the writing came from where? Did you always sort of write things when you were younger, or is that something that's come later in your life?
Yes, I did, actually. I suppose from a very early age, I used to carry a little red notebook. You can still buy them in stationers' shops. A little red notebook with lines, and I'd write down, in the early days, new words I discovered from my reading.
Oh, right.
And I'd try and work them into the school composition, which we had to write once a week. And the teacher often used to say to me, "Have you copied this from somewhere?" And I said, "No, I'm trying out this new word I've discovered." And I don't know whether the teacher believed me or not, but anyway, that's what happened. I used to write down interesting things. It was a kind of rather scatty diary, and I've kept one ever since, so wherever I go.
So this is not your first...
I'm not really into new technology.
So this is not your first collection of poetry. You've done several other collections as well, haven't you? Several other books before this.
My current collection, Rossetti's Wombat, is my 6th.
Your 6th, right. Yeah.
In as many years.
So let's have a look at one of them. And I've gone through, obviously, a couple of these. I've sort of picked out ones that sort of caught my eye. The first one is Clubbing. It's a very first early part of the book. It's on page 6. So that was something from an experience, wasn't it, of yours?
Clubbing is not really like any of the other poems. Out of days of wildness after my divorce, I'm afraid.
And then the other one is on page 49. Is called Time to Say Goodnight, which is it's obviously about the Blitz and things like that. It's quite...
Yes.
It really is, it really got sort of gripped me, that particular poem did, because it's about, obviously, that people being bombed during the Second World War.
Yeah.
And then the book kind of reflects, say, your interest, your love of nature, human nature, and also, I know it's a history interest as well, sort of World War II stuff. So you're a historian as well. You like history stuff?
Not really. It's just that I suppose I was born in just towards the end of the war.
Yeah.
And so those early childhood memories would have covered that period, plus what I'd been told about what had happened. And that's probably the reason. My father was out in France and Germany for the whole of the war, apart from his evacuation from Dunkirk.
Right. Mm.
And he met my mother when his, I don't know whether it was a regiment or platoon, was sent up to North Wales for retraining after Dunkirk. And my mother was doing her war bit as an ambulance driver in Portmaddock, and she met him and his platoon off the train, and he was a sergeant major. He saluted her, she probably saluted him, and they fell in love, and that was that.
Right.
And they got married pretty fast, and I was born a year later. First memory I have of him is probably when I was about 3 or 4, and he was in a greatcoat and had a rifle, and he let me try and pull the trigger. It would have been a Lee Enfield 303, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose it was, yeah.
And I remember him crying.
Oh, my.
Quite a moving memory, really.
Yeah. So could I ask you to read one of the poems from the book? Can you choose one for us?
Yes, okay. If I read All Things Bright...
What page is that on?
On page 11.
Page 11, thank you. Okay, go on.
The band took up the stand and blew against the rain. Mining men spick and span in uniform of black and white brought deep harmony to the coal pit head as thunder rolled across the mountainside with eerie, muffled boom, brass chords counting down the lightning flash to bang. In that diorama of light, Qumranda and Jerusalem brimmed hymning heart, and a male-voiced choir sang of all things bright, like children had before they died in Aberfan.
Oh, yes. Very poignant. Yes, indeed, yeah. We've recently done a lot of stuff on Aberfan on the programme, so that's very poignant to me. Indeed,
yes.
yeah. Okay, well, thanks so much for being my After Five guest today. And I'll say good luck with the book, and I'll say speak in the future, I hope.
Thank you very much, Wyn.
Thank you indeed.
I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you.
Okay.
And maybe we'll meet up one day.
I hope so. I do hope so, yes, indeed, yeah. Thank you.